Well, what can I say? I have got the #1 OG, my homegirl, whether you believe it or not, that bitch, Sarah Mower. Sarah, I cannot even believe you have 5 minutes to sit down with me. Like, I am over the moon and I'm thrilled.
Karen, the chance to sit down with you is always something that I really look forward to because amazing stuff comes out. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, God. You know, when you talk about fashion and you talk about stability and you talk about sustainability and you talk about consistency, all of these words, you know, that make up the whole reason behind fashion, as well as inspirational. I think Sarah can write the book 10 times over. I asked Sarah to come and speak to me about support. And I feel that fashion has all these other words except for the word support, especially from London, especially for the UK, and especially for young people who cannot afford to do the things that they are so capable of doing. And I felt it was so important to talk about, you know, the struggles as well as the excitement of the initiative of NEWGEN, which is the new generation of emerging talent in fashion. And I felt it's just a great way to open the conversation to young people who are thinking that it's impossible to work in fashion, that they don't have a chance because they don't have money and because they're from, you know, marginalized backgrounds and different classes. And I just think those days are now gone. And I feel that now more than ever, the UK have got to pull themselves together and see how we can really show support to young talent. I've always wanted to ask you, Sarah, what started the whole idea of you working with NEWGEN?
Well, I have lots of different hats, and my first hat is as a journalist. So, I way back in the early '90s, British Fashion Council had started NEWGEN in the depths of a really desperate recession. I mean, there was really high unemployment. Young people were out of work, and in London Fashion Week, designers were leaving to show in Paris. So Vivienne Westwood had left, and Osbeck, and
See, that's already crazy.
Yes, well, I mean, it's not uncommon even these days, but in those days there was no internet, so if you had a show, you had to have shows with people at it, and then be covered by the press. So anyway, that was a scenario in which the British Fashion Council, as they were then, decided that they had to take emergency measures to decide what London Fashion Week had, and what we've always had here in this country is amazing fashion education, which is like the best in the world. We can say that, hands down. And young people with original ideas. So they decided to throw a lifeline tentatively to young designers, and there was an exhibition which had taken over the Ritz, and in the attic they had some spare rooms, and they decided that they would give them to
the Ritz Hotel.
The Ritz Hotel. It was a trade exhibition. So the buyers who would come to London, everybody else who was I don't know, more of mainstream designers were taking out other rooms. And one of the people that they offered one of those rooms to, was a young designer who'd just come out of Central St. Martin's, had absolutely no money, was absolutely incredibly, his MA collection from Central St. Martin's was extraordinary, and that was Alexander McQueen.
You're kidding. Oh my God.
So they made a good bet. They made a good bet in the very first year. Anyway, so the thing about NEWGEN is it's a British Fashion Council scheme, which has always been the baseline is that it's to support people who have extraordinary talent and financial need. So and it's always it has a sort of different panels which change every season or every year of journalists and buyers and people who know about fashion, who are the panel who select the designers. So at that point, I was fashion editor of The Guardian. Not really knowing what I was doing in my early 20s, and so I was invited onto this panel. But I could see that things were, at that point there was no outreach to young designers. What they were doing, what they were doing was just getting PRs to come in, and it was all a lot of sort of ladies who lunch and me, and PRs would come in and just wave some samples around this table, and they would go thumbs up or thumbs down, and I was thinking, well,
you're joking.
Yeah, and because I'm a journalist, my instinct has always been to find out what's going to happen next and what young people are thinking, and always what's on the horizon is always what's eventually becomes really important. So I always wanted to discover, rather than just sitting at shows, go to people's studios.
Go
to their bedrooms and kitchens. In fact,
do the work. Yeah.
So I knew what was going on, and I sort of started agitating. Eventually, the agitating got so annoying to them. I kept on saying, "Well, what you need is a scout. You can't just expect PRs to bring in some samples and to be able to tell how the designers weren't even interviewed at that point."
Oh no!
So I said, "You need a scout. You need a scout. You need a scout." And they turned around and said, "Okay, well, you do it then."
Of course.
And that's when I, very honoured to accept the chair of the NEWGEN committee. That was in 2009, when there was also another crisis, which was the world economic crash.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
However, sort of after that, it was the originality of our designers that won through, even in those dark times. So. Long story of saying how I got involved.
I mean, I've been blessed that and I always say this, never forget who put you on. Sarah brought me into become a part of the judges for NEWGEN, and I was over the moon because I saw some things that I think weren't addressed. And Sarah felt that I had a great voice and that my voice could resonate with the youth in a different way and in a different sound. And I feel blessed to be a part of it because I've always believed that the people who are talented, they just don't have the money, and they just are not told that they can do it because they don't have the money and because they're not privileged. And I'm not against anyone who is privileged, but, the privileged person can produce anything they want. And this is a shame because just talking about Lee McQueen, when I first met him, I went to his first show. And he's like East End boy from around the way. He's like from the ends. He's regular schmegular. He's like, a Coke and a smile. That's, a glass of beer and he's happy, at the same time. It was so hard and so difficult. And the fact that he was so dedicated, even before he did his first show.
Yeah.
So if that's the basis of what NEWGEN is about, that's what you call support. You're supporting someone that's already been supporting themselves on nothing, on absolutely nothing. And, I felt that, wow, just to be a part of this type of initiative, it just inspires me more and more to see how much I can do and how much more I can possibly help. But I'm only following behind the footsteps of Sarah because I also want to talk about the ongoing dedication after Lee McQueen. And I wanted to ask you, from the last, how many years is that? 2009, right?
Well, it's
not 2000.
Maths has never been my strong point, but it feels like it's about 15 years.
But it's been a long time. Yes. It's been a minute. And with those years, I wanted to ask you, if you can think of maybe another one that you felt was able to achieve, the global acclaim that Lee achieved through NEWGEN?
Kim Jones was in NEWGEN for a minute.
Right. Let's talk about Kim Jones.
Yes. Jonathan Anderson.
There you go.
Yes, he was in NEWGEN at a very, very early stage. But I don't know that, global domination is the benchmark that I really want to say is like stardom isn't necessarily.
Yeah.
And working for another house is not necessarily the be all and end all. I'm really interested in people who shift the way that women and men want to dress. People, how people want to how people express themselves. I'm really, really interested in people talking about themselves and their cultures and who they are and their identity, which I think is what London is so rich in. Rich in, right? So, thinking back, there was Christopher Kane, 2006. Very working class family.
That's right, exactly.
He and his sister, Tammy, from a small village, post-industrial village in Glasgow, outside Glasgow. Jonathan Anderson, he's Irish, Northern Irish.
That's right.
Brought up as a child during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. It's kind of really interesting how, in fact, it's people who probably think I'm an outsider in some way.
There you go.
Who bring the originality that shakes things up. So,
have you ever felt like an outsider when you started in the industry?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it was Karen.
Yeah. I had a feeling.
I got my career by complete accident. I mean, it never occurred to me I could have an interest. I was interested in fashion as a kid. My granny was sewed, and she was always very on no money. But she had 7 children. It was, during the war years.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was really, so I was born in Bath, and there's a fashion museum there. And as soon as I was old enough to be allowed to go on the bus, I went and, paid my pocket money to go in to see this extraordinary collection, which, I think it is important to know the history of fashion. I think that's how I kind of understood it as part of, related to art, related to the social situation of the times, everything from, Tudor to Georgian to 1930s to, all of that kind of obsessively I was interested in as a child. But I didn't even dream of being in fashion because I didn't know that I did fashion drawings. Anyway, I ended up at Leeds University studying English and history of art, thinking all that was behind me. And while I was there, I picked up a copy of Vogue, which I had to hide because this was the time of punk and post-punk when fashion was absolutely
Vogue
not.
Is
You remember?
Not the one.
No.
No. I didn't buy Vogue. I bought ID.
Yeah.
Vogue, you were a traitor. Completely.
I was reading it just to escape from the nightmare of thinking about exams. Anyway, I opened it and there was a competition page about the Vogue talent contest, and I went in for it. So that was just randomly. I don't know. I did it because I wanted to distract myself from the stress of hoping that something would happen to stop me having to do my exams. And so, and then I got a letter saying you're invited to the
Can you imagine?
the winners' lunch at
Can you
Vogue
imagine?
House.
That's crazy.
So it was a fluke, and I was just been incredibly lucky, and that's one of the reasons that I do believe in schemes. Yeah. That people can enter from nowhere on the off chance. So you can win it is possible, and there are so many so many prizes now. There's
And
Walmart.
someone like you from your town in Bath that can say, oh my God, there's this initiative called NEWGEN. I'm going to go for it no matter what.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and at least I'm going to get advice from people who know the business, who know the history of fashion, who know all the possibilities that's there for them, and to make them feel that oh my God, you know, so what if I'm an outsider? It might be a good thing. Yeah. Because it looks like all the outsiders are the ones that make it, you know?
Everyone, I mean, there's sort of hunger and drive that comes with not thinking that you fit in. Or disagreeing with what's in the centre. Definitely that. So that's kind of what I look for.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know about you, but it's a big responsibility to encourage someone to set up. So you and I share this. You know,
we do.
You have to have a kind of preparedness. And the preparedness, to me, is also it's never about the designer themselves. It's about who you have around you.
Yeah.
It could be your mum. It could be your next door neighbour who does the books for you, or sister, brother, partners,
or mom.
Mum. That's what you. And you, I mean, you speak to that, Karen, because I think that's really important.
When I first met Bianca, and I worked with her for a while, I noticed that her mother allowed her to have her studio in her living room. That's unheard of.
I know.
That is totally unheard of. And because of that, she was able to have her dreams and do what she needed to do and take the time to do it. Yeah. And that went over when I first met her. First, she had it in her bedroom, and then she moved it during lockdown in her mother's living room. Like, that is full-on sacrifice. And I think these are the things that make us great as people who want to support. You know, it's an unlimitedness. It's not that we're spoiling someone or that, you know, we're handing anything out on a silver platter, but we at least want to show them that there's a chance, you know. And coming from marginalized communities, and like I say, if you're not in the UK upper or upper middle class, you feel you don't have a chance. And you know, this is already insanity, you know, because Lee McQueen was a working class boy. Yeah. And today he is still one of the biggest names in fashion, but in every way, shape, or form, because he also embodied his culture. Yeah. And I also think with London
and skills, Savile Row,
hands down. Like, I think he studied with people before he even hit Savile Row.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. And you know, this is dedication also that I think is important when we're trying to support someone. We do need to see their dedication. We do need to see their authenticity. We do need to see that no matter what, they won't stop until the fire burns out, because they love what they're doing, not because they want to be popular or, you know, they want to exist in a world they thought they couldn't exist in. Not just for that sake, but for raw talent and for dedication and for drive. That comes from inside, you know.
Yeah, and the fact is that talent is not distributed by parental income.
Yeah,
that's just you know. So this is what I've seen over the years and concluded, and you know, there are so many students now who can produce extraordinarily finished collections, but then again they're outsourcing all the making and the manufacturing and everything to others, whereas, you know, there are others who in class who will be sitting in a corner, you know, patchworking their collections, collaging their collections together from trash, and turning it into, you know, something extraordinary. And you can tell the difference.
You can tell a huge difference.
You can tell the difference. I mean, the scales are never tipped by at the beginning. If you're looking for brilliance, the scales are never tipped by how much they paid for the fabric.
Just saying. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I've seen I still to this day, since I've been on NEWGEN, seen some incredible artisans. And I just hope that, that doesn't stop, So we've created this podcast because we want young people to hear it and to know that they have a chance and to not be afraid to ask. And, Sarah, you have such a reputation as one of the most important fashion critics on the planet. It's planetary. And at the same time, there's probably a huge fear behind that. And I wanted people, to hear and see the girl that I know. The girl I know is the girl that's like, come on, let's go. What are we doing? Show us what you got. We are really here to help you. We are not here to judge you for what you don't have. We're here to help you for what you do have.
Yes.
And also the reason why I asked you here, because I wanted to, just open what Hi-Fi is about, which is about helping people get to a place where they can come to NEWGEN and show you what's possible. Because as we know, a lot of young students, they're barely eating when they're going to school. And like you say, they're probably spending more money on the little fabric that they can get to make something and to make a toile, to show what they can do. And what we at Hi-Fi want to do, what we have been doing and want to continue to do, is to support them creatively with a presentation. And if that can help in any way that they can show something lucrative to NEWGEN, then at least we all know that we are collaborating in a support system that cannot fail. And we feel that there's more help needed than ever before. The BFC gets but so much money. They can do but so much, You can do but so much. At NEWGEN, we can only, afford to put a handful of people together to give them that money. So we are still saying we need more help than that in the industry. And I'm very proud and honored to be a part of Hi-Fi, which is an initiative to help young talent. But it's not only in fashion, but it's also in music, because I think music is also a key of opening doors to fashion. As we can see, music has sold fashion as much as anyone else. So, and because I have a very long, long line of receipts in music, I'm so excited that Hi-Fi can even merge the two together. And, with that, we can't go wrong, There's a way out of everything. All we have to do is just put our heads together and collaborate and see what we can do. But as well as that, I also wanted to ask you, Sarah, how you feel about now, after the pandemic, the effect that it has had on NEWGEN. Has it been able to, recuperate more funds to help? Or is it still in a place where they're still in a situation where we need more help from NEWGEN?
Well, I mean, NEWGEN is affected by the whole, global situation of fashion around the world. What's happening with the cost of living and inflation and the availability of funds. So, yes, we need funding. We need sponsorship to be able to put people on, as you say, because it's about getting people ready to show in different ways in London Fashion Week. So I think what you and I have seen during the pandemic, there was something which was really interesting, which is that this cross-fertilization of art forms is the way that we're going forward. So filmmaking, music, art world. Then you get to costume and making for individuals. All of these things cross-fertilize. So being a sort of multi-hyphenate and being more than just the person who has a runway show.
There you go.
Is really the fashion communication is more important than ever. And but it's such a creative medium. And when you get people collaborating, it's always been about people collaborating.
It's always been a vibe, isn't it? It's always been a vibe. It's like now you go to a show, it's no longer just a show. It's a presentation. It shows what they're thinking even before they've made the clothes. And I feel that, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but with London, no one does it the way they do it in London. Because I always felt, and especially as an American and an expat, I always felt that in London, they have nothing to lose. They don't even have any money. So what do they got to lose? They're going to put it on. They're going to put it on the way they want. And to me, that makes such a huge impact on what fashion is supposed to do, which again, like we said before, it's supposed to inspire. Has there been any new and upcoming designers that's coming out of NEWGEN now that you feel, you know, are inspirational?
Well, yes.
And as well, representing the UK.
Who can I pick out? It's I feel like, you know, all my children, I can't pick out one or two, but I as you're talking, was remembering Kazna Askar's amazing presentation during London Fashion Week.
Yeah.
So Kazna's from the Yemeni community in Sheffield.
Wow.
So she brings, and her whole business plan is to give back within the community. This is a whole different way of thinking about fashion.
Look, supporting already, even before she started.
Yeah. And she, you know, for her, she did study at St. Martin's. She had a graduation show where she brought down all her mates from Sheffield.
Oh, really?
And it's hijabi sportswear, and it's all upcycled.
Brilliant.
So she has a presentation in London, which is all of her mates sitting, standing, talking. Her mum's there serving tea, you know, and that's, you know, people are like, oh.
This exists.
We didn't know. Yes, that is you know, true representation, and also she's such a gently, like, a visionary speaker as well. I think now what's really interesting is to look at how people are inventing different models of business. So it's not just, is it? It's not just different styles, revolutionary styles. It's thinking about how you can work within this economy and get paid. Another person is Leo Carlton, who just an extraordinary person. Who they design in virtual reality, and they print out, they sculpt in virtual reality, and they sculpt accessories which are then printed out in organic materials, which are biodegradable. And they have created this whole gaming world, which they communicate with lots of other people. This happened during the pandemic as well. So, you know, this extraordinary,
a lot of ideas,
all these ideas were boiling up during the pandemic. And then you have Priya Ahluwalia, who was making movies.
There you go.
Which were sponsored by Gucci, I think. They bought
it was by Gucci, yes, exactly.
And now, guess what? Priya's got a deal with Black Dog Films, which is Ridley Scott's studio. So she's now also producing. She's a film producer on their roster, as well as being a designer, as well as being somebody who brings. I mean, her shows are a celebration of.
Yeah, they are.
They're music events, like Nicholas Daly's shows are music events.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we don't see this anywhere else.
You don't see it anywhere else. You don't. I think it's because the UK just. I also feel, since I've been living here so long, I realize that cultures blend all the time because they live so close to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're not separated. So that means when we're supporting them, we can support them collectively.
Yes.
You know, it's not just so one-dimensional, you know, and just what you're just saying, how she's turned herself. This is what NEWGEN is doing.
Yeah.
We're bringing people out of themselves. We're putting them on blast. At the same time, we're allowing them to see their full potential. And, you know, support, that only comes from support, you know, and that's, for me, my word for the year is how to support, how many different ways we can do it, you know, and this podcast, hopefully, you know, will go out to a lot of young people so they understand that you don't have to be afraid. I think I was on a panel with you once. Do you remember way back in the day? not that far back in the day, and someone came and they saw all of us sitting there together, and they were shaking. They were physically shaking, and it was no reason to shake because we're like, we're only here to help you out. We're only here to put you on, like we're not here to judge you. So, hopefully with this podcast, people can see also the other side of Sarah. And, really understand that, this is all in purpose to also show what the UK has to offer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I feel that because of Brexit, we've been side-eyed, we've been pushed to the side, and it's kind of like, well, hold on a minute, we do exist. Yeah. Because most of the biggest brands globally have at least 2 or 3 people on their team that are from the UK.
Yes.
All over the globe. And without that, we don't have that support, we can't continue this. And then we're not going to have an industry anymore. So, hats off to NEWGEN. Hats off. And how did you feel about the Rebel? You won the award this year.
The exhibition.
Yes, the exhibition. 30 years of NEWGEN in the UK in fashion. How did that feel for you when that finally came alive?
Well, of course, it was a massive amount of work, and it was just, and so many people, were working on it within the museum. And what I wanted it to show was, first of all, the foundation story of how Lee McQueen was making his collection in a council house front room with no money, and then to go through the timeline of this history of our culture in fashion and how it's changed. How it changed when the internet was invented, when online e-commerce was invented, when there were kind of booms and busts. Anyway, but I think I'm most proud of the fact that we had the scenography, which was to show people why it is that London is such a hotbed of talent. Basically, it's because we have people from everywhere here. Because of our fashion education, we have students who come from all over the world. If they want to study fashion and they're good enough, they'll get into all the colleges, not just Central St Martin's, Westminster, London College of Fashion, Glasgow School of Art, Edinburgh, Manchester, all of these incredible art schools all over the country. Paris has its fashion houses. We have our education system.
There you go.
It's the top. It's what we do. So we have the benefit of all of talent from absolutely everywhere, from all the regions and from Europe and from all over the world who congregate in London to study. And then after that, London being multicultural, as you said.
It's the most multicultural.
Yes, and that's what London Fashion Week must embody. That it is. It's not trying to compete with Paris, or we can't compete with Paris. We can't compete with Milan. No, in the same way, we compete on being young and original and rebellious. Anyway, so this show, I had a whole section which was representing art school, what it's like to be at art school, with Paolo Cosana and Priya and a lot of people, Molly Goddard, showing sketchbooks, showing how you can go from just drawing something, imagining a world in your head, in a sketchbook, and then you can make it a reality. So there was that, and there was a whole club queue, which
which I adored, I have to say.
Which I got Nazir Mazar to curate because
you had to.
Because all of our intersections with the music business have been there since the very, very, very beginning. So I was really happy about that. The thing I was most happy about was that the exhibition broke the museum's records on attendance of children and young people.
Of course it did. Of course it was. It was one of the most exciting.
And they were drawing, and people were drawing and coming back and sitting there watching the shows on huge screens as well. So
And that's like
I
a
think
dream.
it's played it for. I think it's played it forward, and there were kids from all over the country. Some people had flown in from
Wow.
to see it that I met, and
I mean, the amount.
that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted, and I think that's
Yeah.
what it's achieved. That there were, then maybe in the future, well, there'll be people saying, "Oh, I didn't know that you could do that with nothing."
You see? And that, I mean, for me, that's inspirational. That's when support becomes inspirational. I also wanted to talk about another show I went to that you did. Could you explain how that happened and what it was called? And this is a huge form of support, like on such another level.
This was it was called the International Fashion Showcase, and it took over
Incredible.
one wing of Somerset House. It was a collaboration between the British Fashion Council and the British Council. So the British Council is the UK's cultural outreach throughout the world. They have offices in many countries all over the world, and there was this thought that we should get together and ask those cultural offices to reach out to the countries and say, who are your emerging designers? Bring them to London. And so we had a static exhibition. So the criteria were that the designer who was going to represent their country would have an installation to display their clothes, but also to tell us about their cultures. So
Exactly.
I can't remember which year were you thinking of? Where did you go? You probably went to all of them, I think.
I went to the last one that you did.
Yeah.
Because that's when I finally met you and I was invited.
Yeah.
But yeah, that, I was blown away. I mean, the amount of culture in one night that I was able to intake was unbelievable. And the fact that it was the British Fashion Council that was a part of it.
Yeah.
With the British Council. That was like something I thought would never happen.
Well, it hasn't happened anywhere else, and it was open to the public as well. That was a whole other thing.
Yes, exactly.
So there were designers from, I mean, everywhere from Austria to Romania to Croatia, Georgia, South Africa, Sierra Leone.
I remember
Ghana,
specifically the Sierra Leone one.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I can still remember it, and it's
I
like,
know.
that for me was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen happen in fashion.
Well, when the truth is that fashion is an amazing form of cultural expression, and that, I mean, I'm proudest of the fact that Tebe Magugu, who came to London for the first time, and his installation, honestly, Karen, was so genius. He does women's wear, but he had a tableau where he had the South African Constitution printed out as a sort of streamer across the room. Oh, when I'm talking about it, I'm getting chills. Because he was born when South Africa was liberated, and he's one of the born free generation, as they're called. But the amazing thing about Tebe was that he'd not been out of South Africa before then. He did this extraordinary show. We also gave them access to the designers and access to buyers to go and have some mentoring, and so there was a prize for the best installation, the best. Which was voted for, I think, by the public as well. Tebe got that prize. He got that prize, and immediately after that, he applied for the LVMH prize, and he won it.
I saw that. That was crazy.
He won it.
But you know what? It wasn't crazy because he was so out there.
He'd prepared. He
was so out there. And sometimes hunger is good. The more hungry you are, sometimes you work harder. Because there's no way of going backwards. All you can do is go forward. You have nothing else to lose.
Yeah, and he was working with his mum in Johannesburg. So, I mean, his mum and a few friends and ladies sewing even when there are power cuts and blackouts, in South Africa.
And that's deep. Yeah.
So there are
Yeah, it's a
I think
situation.
all these things are comparative. Tebby, wow, these are so
that was sensational.
gorgeous.
That was sensational.
Articulate and clever. He also had another thing in London, which was Fashion in Motion at the V&A. So they,
Right.
you know, they
remember
host,
that, right? Yeah,
they host designers there. But Carol, I wanted to ask you a question.
Oh, okay.
So I've noticed that when you talk to designers, it's on a level which is very fundamental and understanding of what they do. What do you think the qualities are? You've helped so many designers within NEWGEN and outside NEWGEN. You've advised people who haven't quite made it to NEWGEN. That's really important to me, because sometimes you think that person, we can't give the advice to them right now because they haven't qualified. You will go. You have on a couple of occasions gone and consulted with people.
Yeah.
What's the? How do you diagnose what they need, and how do you do that? Yeah. How do you bring them on?
Yeah. Well, number one is first of all how to accept the support and what support means. And what I usually say is, do you have an idea?
Yes.
First of all.
Yeah.
That's number one. If you have any ideas, come back to me in 2 years when you do. But if you have a solid idea, understand what it means to develop that idea, enough to sell, and enough to inspire. Because people buy into inspiration. They buy into what you're trying to say and who you're trying to be. And, everybody has a prerogative to be from, a superstar to a mother to, a poet. There's so many different things that you can become by wearing a piece of clothing, as well as being that bitch. But at the same time, why are you wearing it? And why are you trying to sell it? And who are you selling to? There's a lot of questions. So first of all, have an idea. Number two, have a line of questions. Because the more questions you have, the more information you're going to get. That's number two. Number three, do not take help and support in vain. And I said it before, never forget who put you on. Never forget that the BFC and NEWGEN has gone out there to get this money for you. The least you can do is do the work. And doing the work yourself, even before there's a big team around you. Because you have to be authentic in order to sell authenticity. There has to be a core inside of you that has dedication, that has drive, and that has love for a garment, for a piece of fabric, for how you feel when you put it on. This is how you accept support, by understanding what support really is. We're not here to support in NEWGEN, as if I could say it. We're not here to support people who want to be popular, who want to be fabulous, who want to be influencers. We are here to support people who have a natural drive for design and art. Because sometimes they come out as a designer, then they become an artist, which for us is brilliant. Because at the end of the day, fashion is art, and vice versa. I said this to a client the other day. I don't know if they understood it very well. But, fashion is art. Perfect example, J.W. Anderson. Yeah. He embodies it. He shows that we as people, no matter what background we're from, we have an eye, we have talent, and we have natural good taste. There's sometimes I've been on panels with you when someone has come in with something that's already on the catwalk. That means you want to be an influencer. That doesn't mean you want to be a creator. So go back and think about what you want to do. Maybe you're not supposed to be a designer. Maybe you like fashion. If you do, we can find a way for you where you can be in fashion in the best way that you can be. So there's so many avenues, I think, when you're coming to NEWGEN and when you're coming for support. You have to first have the idea and know what it means and understand why it needs to exist.
Yeah, that's absolutely and totally true. We're looking for things that surprise us that haven't been articulated before. And I think what you're saying about art is so interesting because, as we were saying earlier about lines blurring between categories. Now there's a place where, say, Richard Malone, he's making clothes for which are exhibited as art, which are very much accepted and celebrated in the art world. They were he did this whole centerpiece in the Royal Academy Summer Show last year, and his clients are women in the art world, avant-garde.
There you go.
Wealthy women who want clothes which are one-offs from themselves. So there's definitely a social intersection there between making clothes actually sustainably because he's not overproducing at all.
Yeah,
he's making sculptures which are sculptures for women, individuals who want to collect them and need to parade them at Frieze and all of the gallery situations and festivals, Venice and all around.
As well as musicians as well.
And musicians and obviously musicians, yes, because don't you think now that it's very, very easy to get sort of pulled into this sort of whirlwind of despair at the moment, but actually, when you look at the bigger picture of what fashion is at the moment, when you have a broader level of high fashion luxury, which is now actually mass fashion, and the baseline there is everybody has to sell everywhere all of the time. And the plainest and the most.
That's the downfall, by the way.
So when that's going on and that's called luxury fashion, and it's also way too expensive for most mortals to be able to buy, then that creates an opportunity for younger and more independent and edgy people to be able to come up with things which are relevant and extreme and pure in their own way, which have a value, and it's finding a way of, now it's all about finding a way of showing that with your people, whoever they are, and reaching a market. I mean, all these words about marketing and scaling business and endless expansion.
But that's what's so scary about these young people.
I think there's got to be at those times when things become mass and crass. There's always an avant-garde reaction, and there are always people who are going to want to be loyal to that, who want to buy things and wear things which support who those designers are and who they are as well. So if you're not finding that, in the mass luxury market, then I really do believe that there's a way of culture.
But to me, that's form of couture.
Yeah.
It is another form. I mean, Ray Cooper has made a huge career of that. You go into Comme des Garçons, you don't want to buy it, she doesn't care. She's not running down the street jumping up and down. She'll give you a little something that you can say to yourself, wow, I'm wearing that brand. But her core, she does not care. She creates art for people who love it. And there's always that space. But I do have to say, it usually comes from the UK. It usually comes out of the UK, that type of designer. You want to talk about couture, let's talk about couture, okay? It's not just making clothes because they have, 1,000 pieces of Swarovski crystals. It's also about making one-off pieces that someone feels really special for that day, and because they can afford it too. So what is couture now? What is it really, And what you're talking about with Richard Malone, that is couture.
Yes, it is.
And that's another way of accepting the support in the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I also think there's a responsibility of stylists. Let's talk about stylists, Karen, because you know you are that you're in that world, and I'm not. But to have designers who will have a client and think, how can I not help young designers, but how can I use that? How can that person?
I mean, in the world of stylists, yes, hopefully they consider what the designer needs, not what they need. And a lot of times you might get stylists that want to show that they can style something that reaches the sky or the next town, whatever comes first, in size, in length, in quantity, instead of understanding what the designer really needs as far as showing what they can do, but to the best of their ability. We are there to support them, as well as to push them to the best of what they can do. We are not there to jump off of them with our career. We are already okay. We can go and we can have 7 or 8 clients when a designer has 1 stylist. So I feel that, with styling, number one, you do need to have a really, really clear viewpoint as well as knowledge of fashion. Not everybody can tomorrow say, I'm a stylist. I saw something on Instagram that said you can be a stylist in 8 weeks. In what year? Like, this type of thing is lying to young people because they feel stylist is about, let me have I'm fabulous. No, stylist is getting down there and doing the work. But really supporting the designer, being there for them more than one day. Not always talking about how much money they're making, but how they can grow together as a great team. And that's why I think of someone like Kim Jones. He's very loyal, but it's not only because he's loyal. Why break something that doesn't need to be fixed? Did I say that right? Why break something that?
No, don't fix something that's not broken.
There you go. Yeah. Why fix something that isn't broken? So, as much as it's said about there's a stylist on every corner, there isn't really. There's a good stylist is someone that should be able to stay with a designer, as well as the designer not listening to too many ears, but understanding what's best for them as well. But a stylist job should be also an enjoyable one. It should not just be punching a clock. The same time and the same hours it takes for a designer to create a collection, you need to put in the work to style it, to show it in the best light, and to show that this designer has possibilities and that you both can make an actual living off the collection and get it done properly. Get more support. You're also there to attract support as a stylist. I just don't know if many stylists feel the way I do. But I'm old school, I studied under Andre Walker, and I studied under a designer. So I studied under someone because I wanted to be a designer, I thought. But I'd rather just work with them. I mean, and for me, the best thing I think a stylist can do is watch the brand grow that they work with and see what they've done works, and if they can bring out the best in that designer or the best in the collection, so be it. I think we're all here to make a living. We're all here to exist. Like you say, we don't have to show units, but we want to sell our product the best way it can be sold.
Yeah, there are so many complexities, aren't there? And I've learned over the years that these complexities change, and you've got they're shifting all of the time, and we as responsible elders have to be aware of that. In as much as we have our wisdom and things we know that is great to be able to pass on, but it's not like now, because of the economic situation and how everything's changing, you have to be on it, and to make sure that we're not recommending people go down a path which is dangerous to them, because there are things yes, young people are very aware of the kind of exhaustion of the fashion industry, but what's kind of unseen is what do contracts look like? I mean, how you should protect yourself with intellectual property.
Right, right.
And
That's something I didn't say. Yes.
All of these things, which when you win NEWGEN, actually the most important thing usually turns out to be what we've built since 2009, which is the mentoring behind the scenes.
Right.
So you get you get a certain number of hours with top lawyers, with a top accountant, and people who are very sympathetic. Because actually in this country, people do love to give back for free. That comes with the package of NEWGEN, and actually sometimes there are designers who don't bother to take up that, and
that's insane. Yeah, that's crazy.
And then later on they find out they've signed contracts which are going to, they can't get out of. So, and there are certain protections, basic protections to that you need, and I think for young people it's just being, even if you don't know, ask. And one of the signs I had up in my exhibition, which was written by hand by Louise Gray, who now teaches at St Martin's, is "There are no stupid questions
ever."
I ask stupid questions all the time. If there's something you don't understand, and often when it's somebody who's coming along with a contract, tells you very complicated things, just keep asking, keep asking. Yeah. Priya Aliwali is really talented at that.
Yeah, she is.
I think her mum's an accountant. But she, she's not. It's not even being afraid to ask. You must ask. What does this mean? Read the small print. What does that imply? What is that implication? And it's the same with signing sponsorship deals, which are amazing. But what are you getting into? What are you contractually going to have to do for that? Does it mean that you're going to have your stuff reproduced for a brand that you don't
exactly
you don't necessarily want down the line? So there's intellectual property, there's consultancy agreements, maybe another income stream, which is really amazing for young designers, is you have a show. What pays for that is maybe you're doing a silent consultancy for a mass brand, which is, we have to have all of these building blocks to keep ourselves
which is a
going.
Slight form of designing without saying it. And these brands know it.
Yes, but you can get, you need to know what the value of that contract is. So yes, I think this is it's a very complex business. But you don't need to get scared about that initially. But I really do come back and totally, utterly agree with you, Karen. It's, what is your idea?
Where's your idea? And, this could be a wonderful way of life. I could be working in Tesco's. I could be creating something great. It's all the same.
Well, you can be working Tesco's and creating something. But these days, it's like people do,
which is probably what I did when I first came. Yeah. I didn't work Tesco's, but having 3 jobs is not shameful. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with having 3 jobs. No. If you can have 3 jobs, you can handle a business. And also not lying to the young people and telling them it's okay that you have to work. It's okay. No one's going to judge you because you have to work to pay your bills in order to do this.
Absolutely.
And I always feel there's a lot of shame in fashion. And they want to put up airs and graces because they feel they're going to be judged. You're not going to be judged. You're only judged by the idea you've got.
This is
absolutely on fire, true. Let's go. We're working.
Absolutely true.
And we will find a way to support that idea. All we want is an idea. And there's enough help. There's enough help. Of course, we could use more sponsorship. Yes, I think so. Because I know they're struggling, which is, again, why I'm here with Hi-Fi.
Yes.
To kind of offer that. But it's not a lost cause, I want people to be inspired and understand the fashion industry can be incredible as a life.
Yeah.
Because it opens your doors to so many different things. Because it is the most popular job in the world. Didn't they say it in the film? The woman from Devil's Wears Prada. She goes, everybody wants this, and they do. I'm the first to say, and so many people in fashion go, oh, I really hate fashion, Karen. You know, it's really driving me mad. It's driving me crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love every day I'm in it. You know, and I love working with young people, and I love doing what I do. So, you know, don't be afraid of fashion, but don't come in it for the wrong reason, because you will fall. You just will. But we're here to help you. We're here to help you. And I do want to say thank you again.
Well, thank you, Karen.
Sarah Mower. I was going to say a word in between, but I know I can't. My homegirl from Time, who's probably one of the most important and biggest supporters of young talent. And this is just the beginning, I think. I know you've been doing it forever, but I still think we got a lot of work to do, you know, and we got a lot more people to see. So I'd like to say thank you to Hi-Fi for having us. And hopefully, you know, the information is enough to get you started.
Thank you very much. And I'm really inspired by Hi-Fi. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Is that good?